In this presentation, we're going to think about the broader fundraising ecology for nonprofits. So over the course of these presentations, we're going to really do a deep dive into fundraising itself, so donor fundraising specifically. But we want to think about, where does donor fundraising sit within a larger fundraising ecology? So here I lay out some of the broader or the larger buckets of fundraising that nonprofit organizations are involved in. And the role of boards can vary across these different buckets. With a number of them, there's going to be a lot more work involved with staff if it's an organization that has one or more full-time staff members who are doing some of this work in addition to their partnership with the board members. Some nonprofits have no full-time staff. They rely on board members and other volunteers to do all of this work. And so depending on the size of the organization, a board may be more or less involved in any of these buckets of fundraising. There are foundation grants. So these are sets of money often left behind by families or created by other means. But these are pots of money that give out grants for philanthropic causes. And in that sense, they are similar to corporate giving and government funding, which all give out money for similar types of causes, but generally with different types of motivations and with different histories to the finances behind them, as well as different governance structures to those organizations themselves. So a government agency like the National Endowment for the Arts is subject to particular kinds of oversight and legislation in ways that are different from how corporate giving structures might exist, or how foundations might operate. There's also a category called earned revenue, which people are often surprised about when they think in terms of nonprofits. And this is where nonprofits can earn money with some of the activities that they do or the resources that they have, whether that's by renting out their space that they operate within, or offering their services to different types of individuals and organizations in exchange for a fee for service. So earned revenue is another form of fundraising for nonprofits. Nonprofits will often engage in events and campaigns. They might have an annual gala or other types of events to fundraise. And this looks a little bit like donors, but it's not the same thing. The people who pay for a ticket to go to an event are not giving a direct donation to the organization. They're paying in exchange for an entertainment experience. And at that experience, they might have opportunities to make additional donations while they're there. And then lastly, I'll emphasize the role of donors. Here I'm talking about individual donors, and that can be anywhere from a $1 donation to a $1 million donation. And some nonprofits are going to make distinctions based on the size of the gift given by the individual, or they may not. That's really up to the practices and the values of the organization and the kinds of relationships that they are building with their donors. So in this activity, we're going to identify how the board can support each of the fundraising tactics from the previous slide. So what you're going to do is identify what type of work each individual can do, each individual from the board. So maybe you have a board member or multiple board members who can assist with making connections to corporate giving, multiple board members who have experience in grant writing for foundations, board members who can broaden the networks for individual donations. So you want to identify what those different possibilities are. And then you want to define the role of a fundraising committee specifically for this board. So if you have a 12-person board, perhaps you have a 3 or 4-person fundraising committee. What would be the job description of that committee? Not just of the individuals on the committee, but what is the description of the committee itself? And finally, you want to define the relationship between the fundraising committee and the larger board. Does the fundraising committee give work to do to the board? Do they give homework to the board? Can they set expectations for board members who are not on the fundraising committee? Do they report out at each of the board meetings? I think I'm implying answers to these questions as I ask them, but I want you to think through these questions collectively as a board. So you can pause here and continue this activity. And then when you're ready, you can restart here for a broader discussion amongst the entire board. Here are some questions that I want you to think about. This is using an activity called PESTLE. It's something that businesses and other organizations often do to explore the larger ecosystem in which they operate. And it's a series of questions that spell out this term pestle. And it turns out pestle can be spelled Pestel or Pestle. Both are valid spellings of the word pestle, like a mortar and pestle. When you see this in terms of an organizational analytical tool, it can go with both spellings as well. But here are the questions that you want to ask about that larger ecology for fundraising for your organization. What are the political factors that impact fundraising for your nonprofit? What are the economic factors that impact fundraising for your nonprofit? What are the social factors that impact fundraising for your nonprofit? What are the technological factors that impact fundraising for your nonprofit? What are the environmental factors that impact fundraising for your nonprofit? And lastly, what are the legal factors that impact fundraising for your nonprofit? For some of these, it may be very obvious that they apply significantly, and for others, you may not see a connection whatsoever. Try to make a connection to each and every one of these. So do a deep dive, use your critical thinking skills, and find some connection to each one, but then really identify which ones have the highest priority, which ones seem to make the largest impact for your organization. And for further learning, there's a few resources here. This grant writing book in box one is really a book that would be of most use to the entire organization, particularly to staff members who are involved in grant writing. But it's not a bad idea for the board to have access to a copy, or for a board member to have access to a copy to support grant writing from a board perspective. This next resource is a grant proposal resource from the University of Wisconsin at Madison. And it's initially intended really for academics who are writing grant proposals, but it's a really good guide for grant proposals across the board. Then we have another resource from Candid, an organization that provides a lot of resources and guides for nonprofit organizations. And finally, a video called How Are Nonprofits Funded? That video is also available on this webpage. I'll let you watch and read these resources and take it from there. Thanks.